In this house in Wisconsin lived a picture-perfect American family. A father, a mother, and 2 sons. The younger son, Chandler, was his parents' pride. 23 years old, a first responder, a college student, and he claimed a future SpaceX engineer. But on July 7, 2021, this fireplace became the center of something horrific. Chandler didn't use it for warmth, he used it to hide the truth, because his perfect life was a lie. And when his father found out, Chandler did the unthinkable. Chandler showed his parents this email, an official job offer in Florida. Salary, bonuses, relocation. His father, Bart Halderson, was thrilled. Bart told coworkers about his son's success. They were planning a celebration, but he didn't know one key fact. Chandler wasn't working at SpaceX. He wasn't even attending college. He had dropped out months earlier and was staying home, playing video games. But here is what really happened on June 29, 2021. Bart Halderson picked up the phone and called Madison Area Technical College himself. He pretended to be Chandler to get those transcripts. The woman on the line checked the records. Chandler had not been a student there for over a year. No classes, no credits, nothing. Bart stayed quiet on the call, but inside, he knew the truth was coming out. He lied about everything: work, school, even insurance. Chandler did not stop at one lie. He created fake people at the college. One was Melissa Brandt, another was Daniel Spieth. He set up email accounts for them. He wrote back and forth with his father as if they were real. Bart even talked to Spieth on the phone, and it sounded just like Chandler. His own father noticed, but he wanted to believe his son. Chandler told his parents he worked at American Family Insurance. He said he had a good job there, but to make it seem real, he created fake emails. One from a man named Tom Selznick. It explained delays in his pay. His father believed it for a while, but the money never came, and that started to raise questions. Chandler also told his parents he was a rescue scuba diver. He said he worked with the Madison Police Department. He even described missions where he saw bodies underwater, but the police had no scuba team at all. Not one. It was all made up. Another part of his perfect story. Here is something the college could have done better. They did not send any notice to Bart and Krista when Chandler stopped going to classes. There was no automatic alert for parents, so the lies went on for months. No one outside the family knew the truth, and to keep the lie alive, he took it to an extreme. When his parents disappeared, Chandler played the role of the worried son. He went to neighbors asking if they'd seen them. Chandler went to the neighbors right after his parents went missing. He asked if they had seen them. He looked concerned, but both cars were still in the garage.
Hi, my name is Chandler Halderson. I live just down the road.
Oh, yeah.
You're the one who called the police.
Yeah.
I was told you had good fancy security system. I was wondering if you were able to capture the road or my house.
The police actually came and downloaded everything they have. But it's actually my sister's house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they were here, I think till like 9 o'clock last night and downloaded all the video she's got. So we're hoping that...
Yeah, did it capture anything on...
We don't know. We don't know. They just took a copy of everything, and so we're hoping...
Widening the lens?
Yeah, and it's all...
Be able to get a copy.
Yeah, and it's all HD, and then I think there's one...
Especially in the dark. It looks like it has a little bit of night vision.
Yeah, and there's one on the corner of the garage, too. I don't know if that one quite goes that direction, but...
Maybe open. Anyone would have like security cameras and stuff like that.
We do. For you guys, okay?
Thank you.
Take care of things.
Take care.
Bye.
The neighbors noticed. They thought it was strange. So did the police. Chandler told everyone his parents were picked up by friends. He said they left in someone else's car, but both family cars were still in the garage. The neighbors saw them there. The police saw them too. That did not add up at all. Inside the fireplace, they found ash. A lot of ash. And mixed in were fragments the fire hadn't fully destroyed. Detectives look at Chandler's foot. He said the family dog knocked a ball into the fireplace glass and broke it. That is how he cut his big toe. But the injury did not look fresh, and later they found blood from Chandler in the basement, right near where the glass was missing. He was trying to clean up after something much worse than a game with a dog. The lab results confirmed the worst. This wasn't firewood. The crime lab tested the evidence from the house. They found Bart's blood on a saw blade and on a tarp. Chandler's DNA was on the jeans he wore that day, and in the family room, everything pointed back to their own basement. These were the remains of Bart and Krista Halderson, and Chandler's browser history filled in the rest. He typed in searches like how to cremate a body. He was not worried about his parents. He was planning his next move. It started with one phone call. Bart decided to call the college to sort out his son's situation. Chandler realized his fantasy world was collapsing. If his father learned the truth, he would lose the house, the money, the status. Instead of admitting it, he picked up a rifle. He chose murder over shame. In this video, we'll break down every step of his lie. You'll see the evidence that sends him to prison for life. This is a story how far someone will go to avoid growing up. In the end, Chandler got life in prison, no chance for parole. When the judge asked if he had anything to say, he read a short statement. He talked about an appeal. He showed no real remorse. His parents got no justice in his eyes. But the court made sure he would never hurt anyone again. Welcome to Vain, folks. Look, the world is full of people pretending to be perfect. Today's case is the ultimate proof that the perfect family is usually the most dangerous illusion. I built this channel for people who are not afraid to look at the ugly truth. We do not sugarcoat crime here, and we don't apologize for the details. If you have the stomach for reality, hit that subscribe button. Tell me in the comments, what is the one lie you told your parents that you never got caught for? Let's see how honest we can be. Okay, so, what makes this particular phone call placed to Madison Technical College on June 29th of 2021 so incredibly eerie is that, on the surface, it sounds mundane. You would never pick up on the sheer weight of what you're listening to. You couldn't possibly grasp the life or death stakes without being filled in on the context behind the questions being asked. We'll bring you completely up to speed on that as we make our way through this chilling conversation.
Okay, for the degree, you have to download the duplicate diploma form and send a check or a money order of $4 for the diploma to be mailed back to you. For the transcript, you have to go online and request.
Yeah, I tried requesting online and we never got them. And I've spent I don't know how many times doing that at $8 a piece, so I'm not willing to do that again.
Why is that letting you request your transcript? What is it?
It's not my system, it's your system, so don't ask me questions like that.
That is exactly how our caller is feeling at this moment. Though, as it will tragically turn out, this was through no fault of Madison College.
Okay, but I need to establish the problem first before I can know how to walk you through to get it. Are you by a computer so I can walk you through on how to get it?
I've gone through the process before. I tried to work with Daniel Spike to see if he can get through the information. I don't know if he's with you guys anymore.
But here's the thing. Daniel Spieth does not work for Madison College. He never has. In fact, he never will. The truth is, he doesn't even exist.
It just seems like the ball keeps getting dropped.
Okay, it's pretty easy to request a transcript.
That's what I thought too, and
you just go to the
it
website.
hasn't come through.
It doesn't come through
After a bit more back and forth and some necessary explanations about which personnel handle which records, it's finally time to look at the student account in question.
Okay, what's your first name?
Chandler, Chandler. Last name is Hald as in David, ERSON.
For the better part of a year, Chandler has been telling Bart and his mother Krista that he's on track to graduate from Madison College Renewable Resources Engineering program. Yet, to their constant frustration, the college has somehow failed to provide Chandler with his transcripts. The real reason for this is that Chandler Halderson has been lying. He hasn't actually set foot on campus since the fall of 2020, and he hasn't so much as earned a single credit from the college since the fall of 2019, when he managed to get a C in a project management class. Between then and late 2020, Chandler did sign up for various other classes, but he withdrew or flunked out of every single one. Since then, most of his waking hours have been put toward playing video games and just sort of hanging out.
Okay, so it looks like you owe a balance. You owe a balance of $2,349. So that's why you can't request it. Hello?
Yeah. Can I schedule a time to actually come in there and pay all that and resolve everything at one time?
Yeah, the payment center is open, yes. You can come in. Somebody will be there.
Note the complete lack of any response from Bart Halderson to the effect of $2,000 and what? What is the meaning of this? Instead, there's just a period of heavy silence before he goes straight to asking how he can get everything paid up. That anger you heard at the very start of the call has vanished into thin air, never to be heard from again. This leads us to believe that Bart, maybe on some unconscious level, had a hunch Chandler had been lying to him before he even dialed the number. But let's be honest, there's a big difference between suspecting and knowing, and the revelation of an over $2,000 balance that his son never told him about seems to have put Bart firmly over that line. And so, he begins asking questions designed to clarify to just what extent Chandler's lies really go.
How long can they do an unofficial transcript?
Yes, if you have to pay the balance though. You have to pay the balance first.
Okay, now how long does it take to do an unofficial transcript from you guys?
Right away. You can download it. It's a PDF that you can download right away.
Now, if you've earned a certificate, say in that solar program,
If you earned a certificate?
And received 3 credits for. It could also be a course on photovoltaic installation he took in the summer of 2018, which he passed with an A and received 1 credit for. The bottom line, however, is that he never accumulated enough credits to earn a certificate in solar or any other area.
yeah.
I don't see that you earned a certificate. There were no, like, you were taking IT classes, right? I don't see that you were in a program.
Well, prior to the IT, there was a solar program too.
Yeah, but I don't see that you were Chandler Anderson. The account I'm looking at, there was no.
How far back does that account go that you're looking at? Like when was the first class taken?
Okay, I can. 18, spring of 2018.
Oh, okay. So that does have all the history then.
Yeah, but I don't see that you were admitted.
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Said I don't see that you were admitted in any program.
You said they were, it's the IT degree is in there, right?
As you probably would have guessed by this point, Chandler does not have any sort of IT degree. It's another fabrication. He enrolled in several IT courses throughout 2019 and 2020, but he withdrew or flunked out of every single one of them. In fact, he has never even been enrolled in a degree program at Madison College for anything at all.
No, those are just classes. Like you took general education classes and then the IT classes. You have the solar. You took a solar class, physics, trigonometry, leadership of an art, general chemistry. Yep, you took solar classes, but you were not in the program.
Does the internship from the spring show up in there?
Entrance from the spring of what year? I can go back.
Oh, this year, 2021.
No.
Does those normally show up in there?
Yes, if internship is part of the curriculum, yes.
Do you have an Alyssa Brandt that works in that area or anywhere in the campus?
Alyssa Brandt is another made-up person. She's a complete work of fiction. A college counselor Chandler invented simply to throw his parents off the scent of his deception. He went so far as to set up a fake account for her, alyssabrand54@mail.com, and then sent dozens upon dozens of emails back and forth to himself and his father over the course of many, many months. In these emails, he gave a whole litany of excuses for all the delays in providing the most basic of records.
What is the last name?
BRAN, I think it's T or DT.
Aside from giving this fictional counselor a Gmail address, Chandler left another clue of his deception. He spelled her name with a DT in the email address, but often signed off on the emails without the D. One thing you're going to learn over the course of this story is that Chandler Halderson is, frankly, remarkably stupid.
You said the first name is Alyssa?
Alyssa? Yeah, ALYSSA.
No. All the branch. There's no Alyssa.
And does that check non-teachers and everything? It would be anybody on campus that works there?
There will be anybody on campus. The directory will have anybody on campus.
Okay. How about, does Daniel Spieth still work there? SPEITH?
The advisor, Daniel Spieth, reachable at spiethdaniel@mail.com, was a particularly vivid creation. Chandler even bought a burner phone, the number of which Spieth provided as his contact, and he actually spoke to Bart about the issues he was having with the college over the phone. Bart Halderson would later note in an email to his wife, Krista, how much this Daniel Spieth character sounded just like Chandler. Even at that point though, he and his wife continued to let themselves believe the ruse.
No, it's not, so no.
Okay, that should do it then. Okay, thank you for your help.
Right, you're welcome.
And those are the last words Bart Halderson was ever recorded speaking. Shortly after this call ended, he texted Chandler, telling him that he had spoken to a customer service representative at the college. I need to be very careful about how I phrase what happened next. Less than 48 hours after that, an event took place in their Dane County home, from which Bart did not survive. It isn't known precisely what interactions Bart and Chandler had in the time between the text message and the terrible outcome, but it can be easily inferred that Chandler had come to the realization he no longer had any way to keep his deception going, and if his father had finally caught on to the lies about his education, it naturally followed that this would uncover yet more lies. For instance, if he had no degree, his parents would probably figure out he didn't actually have a job with American Family Insurance, a claim he'd been making for the past year. He'd had issues keeping up with that lie too, mainly on account of his parents noticing that he remained flat broke in spite of this supposed gainful employment. Again, Chandler made up a range of increasingly convoluted administrative issues to account for this, again creating multiple fake email accounts to back up his claims. Unlike the correspondents from Madison College, the American Family Insurance personnel did not use Gmail to field business-related issues. They opted for Proton Mail instead. And once Chandler's parents figured out the insurance gig was fake, it was pretty much a given that they would soon realize his new job with SpaceX was also a lie. A job he was set to start in Florida, but had to push back due to a major head issue he had supposedly sustained. He hadn't, of course. If Chandler Halderson did have a fall, there is nothing to indicate it resulted in anything more than a bump to the head, which he vastly exaggerated the consequences of. And they would probably conclude that if he wasn't an IT graduate, nor an insurance company employee, nor a SpaceX recruit, then he likely wasn't a rescue scuba diver for the Madison Police Department either. It would only take one phone call to Madison police to reveal that lie, as they did not even have a scuba diving unit. So what does one do with the prospect of such humiliating revelations staring them in the face? In most cases, we would imagine they would just confess to their lies, as there's simply no way to conceal them anymore. They would get the help they need in dealing with the obvious psychological problems so they can start to turn their life around. But in this instance, as we've stated, Chandler opted for a different path. His basic line of reasoning must have been something like, if his father was no longer around, the knowledge of his deceit would disappear. One of the many major problems with this is that he would not have had enough time to hide what he had done before his mother arrived home, or to explain his father's sudden absence even if he did. So, when Krista Halderson arrived home a little after 5 p.m., she also did not survive the events that followed. Krista sent her son one last text that afternoon. She said she would pick up some soda for him on the way home. She added a little smiley face. She was thinking about her boy. She had no idea what was waiting for her at the door. I'm consciously not going to go into the details of what happened next. The official reports are available in public records if you want to research further. But what is described in them simply does not fit in your head, and I cannot risk the platform blocking this content. What I can say is that over the next several days, Chandler's action crossed every imaginable boundary. He attempted to conceal what he had done by taking steps that involved multiple sites throughout Wisconsin. Not that there's any good way to execute this sort of plan, but whatever scant advantage you might gain from spreading out this type of evidence is going to be greatly outweighed by additional risks you take on with the approach. Each new location just provides any opportunity to be seen by someone, and with modern forensic science, it's not as if investigators need every piece of evidence in one place to understand what happened.
So my last message I got from them, they were going to White Lake for the 4th of July. There's some festivities that go around there, you know, better drink prices at the bars, stuff like that for, White Lake, Wisconsin. To my knowledge, they were going to Langlade County to a cabin, their cabin.
The reports from the sheriff's office say they didn't have a car, or there wasn't a car with them.
They were picked up by their friends, who I never got the name of.
You don't know who.
Jeez, indeed. So Chandler Halderson went with the story of his parents making a last-minute decision that they told only him about, to go on a trip to their holiday cabin, but he obviously decided it was too risky to attempt to make one of their cars vanish, so instead, he claimed they were just picked up by friends he had never seen before. And his parents, conveniently, never gave any identifying information about them. As cunning as this intricate web of lies may have been in his own mind, it was not enough to throw Wisconsin's finest off the scent. And it didn't take long for them to confirm the worst. In the course of interviewing people that Chandler was close with, they learned that on July 5th, he had made an unexpected visit to a farm property. Though somewhat bemused by the unexpected request, Chris obliged him. A little while later, when Chris and Dulce went to use the pool themselves, they found the cover was still on and Chandler's car was parked in a nearby field adjacent to a wooded area. Even more bemused than before, but still with no reason to suspect something horrifically sinister, they used the pool for a while before Chandler emerged from the woods, had a quick dunk in the pool, and drove off very shortly after. They just thought the whole episode was very weird. Authorities agreed and conducted a search of the wooded area on July 8th. Not long after the search commenced, they discovered evidence related to Bart Halderson partially concealed under a pile of sticks. When running too low on time to dig a shallow grave, one has to make do with what they've got. And so later that evening, just hours after Chandler Halderson wrapped that ridiculous TV interview, police brought him in for questioning.
What's going on?
Halderson isn't particularly adept at feigning innocence. One quick thing to note throughout the interview is that his eyes seem to have a somewhat magnetic relationship with the floor. He will look at the detectives intermittently, especially directly after he's asked a question. But then, that downward drift will start creeping back in.
Alright, so we're just going to talk to you a little bit more, okay?
Okay, let's write some siege here.
Let's write some siege here.
The other one.
Right before Detective Brian Shunk reads Halderson his Miranda warning, he makes an almost frustrated sound sigh and gives a weak qualifier why they have to go through with it.
Before we get started, just because you're up here, okay, so I'm just going to read you your constitutional rights. Okay, so this is a Dane County issued card that they give us. So I'll just read them to you right off the card, okay?
We suspect the reason behind the awkwardly nonchalant framing of the Miranda warning is that the detectives understand this is the biggest potential landmine they have to get over. The very act of reading them is liable to alert Halderson to the fact he's under serious suspicion. That's something investigators want to downplay as much as humanly possible. In this instant, because they've discovered evidence, they already have Halderson dead to rights and can easily make an arrest. What they really want is from him to share his false narrative on record in as much detail as possible. To help them further build their case against him, phrases like "you have the right to remain silent" have an inherently confronting ring to them. So Detective Shunk distances himself from such phrases by framing them as just words on a card that he has to read.
Realizing that you have these rights, or you're not willing to answer questions or make a statement.
Just need a yes, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
so
Yes.
the second one,
Okay.
so I'll just read it again. Realizing that you have these rights, or you're not willing to answer questions or make a statement.
Oh, I will make a statement.
Okay.
So you understand them. You're willing to talk.
Could I have the card so I could read it? I missed some. I'm sorry. I'm
I can read
still
it.
having a little bit of problems. The third one.
All right, I'll read it. We'll just start all over.
Yeah.
We'll just read them all again.
Yeah.
No big deal.
All right. So you have the right to remain silent.
Some have theorized that Halderson's apparent vacantness is an attempt to exhibit exaggerated symptoms of his supposed head issue. Would wager his mind is genuinely going to other places at this moment. As dim as Chandler Halderson may be, it's hard to imagine the notion that he may not have covered his crimes perfectly has not been nagging at him.
Just go back to last Wednesday.
Wednesday. I was with my dad. What time Wednesday? I remember it. It was kind of a bad day.
Okay. Why was it a bad day?
I tossed the ball and I smashed the glass
Okay.
with the dog. The dog's help. That set my dad off. And we tried to clean it up.
Okay.
I don't know about him, but I got injured.
The glass that Chandler is referring to is that of the downstairs fireplace. Police, as well as friends who visited the Halderson residence after Bart and Krista went missing, noticed that it was shattered. Chandler's story about breaking it while playing ball with the dog is completely false. The glass broke when he was attempting to use the fireplace to conceal evidence of what he had done. He tried to get the flame as hot as possible using various methods. At one point, the fire started to get out of hand, and Chandler attempted to put it out by dosing it with cold water, causing the glass to shatter. Sometime during this whole process, he did, in fact, cut his foot on some of the glass.
What type of ball was it?
It's this gross, hairy tennis ball that Rizzo loves.
Alright. Just like a green tennis ball, like a normal
Yeah.
ball.
You know, Chandler probably should have picked something like a baseball. It would be far more plausible for that to smash through the protective glass of a fireplace than a simple tennis ball.
By the way, a detective at my house said something's happened, and while we were leaving, people were going inside. Is there a warrant for my house?
Should there be?
No, I'm just wondering if
I'm just wondering if that was a very messy attempt to camouflage concern for himself as concern for his parents. Aside from Chandler's concerns about a warrant being totally out of place, even the expression of concern that something has happened to his parents related to the house is extremely suspect in the context of his story. According to Chandler, he watched his parents drive off with an unknown couple and has had the house to himself ever since. There's no way something bad could have happened to his parents inside the house since then. if his story were true.
Okay.
Can we go
As
in?
far as I know, they were at your house and they were going to be there talking to you to ask if you would come up here and talk to us.
But Officer Haley just like walked pretty much in to the gate, the gate on the outside. She just kind of walked in. I was wondering.
Was that when you were getting your wallet?
No, we were. I was in the car waiting to leave. I was just wondering if everything's okay. Because she said something's happened.
Okay.
And we need to go down.
All right. I'll find out what that's about.
Well, has anything bad happened? Oh,
Not sure. All right. So Wednesday night, Mom comes home.
Because this interrogation is more of an extended incriminating statement than a true interrogation, there's not a lot to observe in terms of flashy tactics. Rather than challenge Chandler, the investigators just let him relay his activities in the hours leading up to and the days following his parents' supposed departure. Some of what he recounts is made up. Some of it is truthful but completely immaterial. And all of it is agonizing to listen to on account of Chandler Halderson's monotonous drone, which is why you might notice us being a little aggressive with the fast forwarding today.
Then we get to Sunday. It's the 4th. I think I called my mom. Oh, throughout I've called. I don't know the times though. Throughout the weekend, I mean. But I called my mom, I believe, in the morning. Just along those lines, and I get a text from her. It was a text message. It wasn't even my message, so I assumed. She said White Lake today. So she sent it that day.
Here is another part of Chandler Halderson's plan that he botched in a spectacular way. He wasn't quite so inept as to claim he received text messages from Krista that didn't exist. He did place calls to his parents' phones and even sent himself texts from his mother's phone. However, he did all of this within the confines of his own house. So cell tower activity would prove that none of the communications that came from his parents' phones originated anywhere near the Haldersons' holiday cabin. And it gets worse. The text message from Krista that Chandler is referring to said they were going to White Lake for the parade, referring to the White Lake Independence Day parade. It was sent on Sunday, July 4th. The parade actually took place on Saturday, the 3rd.
I couldn't figure out where she was because it was a text. There was no iMessage, so I kind of just left it at that. They're safe, they're alive.
After more labored detailings of his activities over the course of the days leading up to now, Chandler gets to the episode where he visited the farm to use their pool. His telling conveniently omits the stroll through the woods he was spotted making. He instead tells a story about having a breakdown related to his supposed health issues stemming from his supposed head issue.
Then I go up to have, a breakdown by their shed, and they go swimming. Right by the swimming pool is the shed, so they wanted to watch me, break down and all that. So after I noticed they're just watching, I just walk over to them.
Neither Chris nor Dulce ever described witnessing Chandler have this breakdown by the shed. According to them, when they saw him emerge from the woods, he walked straight past it and up to them in the pool. It will turn out he must have paid the shed a visit at some point, however. Months later, an item Chandler used to commit these terrible acts will be found hidden inside it.
Describe your breakdown to me.
I actually cried. Started kicking grass, just doing the toddler tantrum shit. Then I hopped in the water with them.
Okay.
It was too late. I was in the water and I realized Crest didn't have a top.
Okay.
And that was uncomfortable. But I talked to them more. Where are we?
Sunday. So you were swimming, had a little breakdown. What were you having a breakdown about?
You ever have your legs kind of? Yeah.
No, I haven't.
It's just.
Okay.
I don't even know if they're done bleeding as bad as they can be yet. So
yeah.
that's That's not fun.
And I think you were telling me last night it's a symptom of a concussion, right?
So
Is that right?
that's not it. It's a symptom of nerve damage from the hit to my spine. So it's permanent.
Okay, I understand that now better.
Yeah. So it's just legs. I think it's waist feeling is probably colostomy bag down the road and all of that. But here we are Sunday.
It will take very minimal effort, for instance, for detective to determine whether any medical professional has ever indicated to Chandler that he may need a colostomy bag. After a few more inconsequential details, Chandler gets to the point in the timeline where his parents have not returned home at the time they were supposed to.
Like, oh, it's Tuesday morning. They should be here. A little worried. I think I called my mom that day.
All right.
And then,
You talked to her?
no, she never picked up.
It's always either?
It's always the voicemail. It's a voicemail. You know when you?
Oh, yeah.
So it's off, out of range. I don't know the other factors that could give you that.
It's like a voicemail right away. It goes right to voicemail, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So whatever factors can give you that.
So I might have missed it. So from the time like they left, did you talk to them at all when they were
I got a
up
text.
north? You got the one text
And I
that you mentioned
don't
earlier,
even like it.
right?
Yeah.
But that was it? Nothing else?
Yeah. So that's fishy to me, even the text, because I realized Memorial Day is when the White Lake Parade is.
Oh, sure.
There's no 4th of July. Maybe there's cheap drinks, but there's no parade at White Lake on the 4th. So, well, maybe there is now.
So basically, from the time that they're gone at the cabin and you're home, you know, running around doing what you're doing, you just had one communication with mom.
Yeah, that's kind of how
Via
I
text.
just assumed the amount of people, where they're at, and whether
Sure.
all.
Well, I understand. I was just making sure it
added
wasn't
up
more
to
than one.
Her not contacting, but this was the only text.
Was there anything with Dad?
No, I wouldn't even bother talking to him. He wouldn't use his phone while he's up there. He loves it.
Oh,
You know,
does he keep his phone on him when he's up there?
it's usually in the car.
Oh, okay.
I got a coffee at a Quick Trip one day. Well, I think that could have been Tuesday morning.
Because the conversation has now come to a period where less and less of Chandler's movements can be accounted for in ways that don't seem suspicious, his stalling tactics start to become borderline comical. We mentioned the fast forwarding today has been particularly aggressive. Here's a little taste of the sorts of stories you've been deprived of.
Okay. At Quick Trip, I got a coffee, and I used my dad's number at a Quick Trip to get me the free one because it was the Cruise of Gold.
Yeah.
I could have afforded it, but you know, there's a free one, and it's Tuesday or it wasn't Monday. I could have gotten $1 one, but it was full price, I believe, and I grabbed the coffee because it was a free one. He hasn't used it for weeks, so I grabbed that at a Quick Trip. I couldn't tell you which one. I was just driving at that point.
When you use it's a rewards card is what they call it, right?
Yeah.
You just enter his phone number or something.
You type it.
Okay.
But I got a coffee. Had to be, I'm assuming, Tuesday. And I got a free one.
Sweet. So you said you went to the police department to talk about your parents. Just tell me, what exactly did you talk about?
Friends and family become increasingly concerned about Bart and Krista's absence, and Chandler relays how family friends traveled to the holiday cabin where they naturally found no sign it had recently been inhabited. It was at that time that Chandler essentially had to inform police that his parents were missing. Now, the detectives turned the heat up on their questioning ever so slightly.
Your parents with the deputies about?
Oh, we're making a report. A report. That I thought I had to do that at a station.
Okay. And you were reporting, like, what were you reporting exactly? I just want to write down and have it on there.
They're missing this.
Okay. They're missing this. Okay. Gotcha.
And
as far as you know, I mean, were you able to tell? We've gone into a lot of detail last night and tonight, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that you gave them as much information as you've given me, or do you think that we've
You
kind of
asked
gone
way
into
more questions.
Yeah.
You even asked about my injuries,
Yeah.
the bleeding, and the fireplace.
Yeah.
The sheriffs kind of gave what they need to make reports, and you just asked about like home life.
Everything, right? Okay.
So you got more in depth,
Yeah.
I think. Wednesday here we are, and throughout the weekend I've been calling.
Mm-hmm. Okay. As far as the blood on your foot, how did you clean that up? So we were talking. You had blood on
Swiffer wet jet.
Okay, Swiffer wet jet. And where did you get that from?
Cat let me borrow it.
Where's it at now?
I returned it.
To Cat.
And I don't know where it's at now. We just brought it back. Gave it back to her.
Did you use anything else?
Hydrogen peroxide for the tiles and the hard floors. Just the big globs needed a little bit.
Hydrogen peroxide. Did that seem to help get rid of the blood?
Well, it hurt my foot and stuff, but it didn't really help.
Okay.
It kind of just made a mess.
And when you say only on tiles, I'm trying to remember your house.
I couldn't do carpet with it. It
Yeah.
would ruin the carpet, right?
It would. I think so. Tiles, are we talking kitchen? Because downstairs
Yeah.
is just like cement.
Well, when I had some blood on the basement, I used the peroxide.
Did your dad get injured at all when the glass broke? Did he step on any of
He
it?
sent me up, but I don't doubt it. When he gets mad, he's not thinking.
So we don't know if your dad got hurt.
No,
Okay.
no. But my best guess is that guy reached in the fireplace and cut off his arm or something. I don't know. Alright.
What's up?
Head pain? Do you guys have like Tylenol or something?
Is there any reason to believe mom or dad's blood would be somewhere?
Not that it's a high bar, but this might be the smartest play that Chandler Halderson has made so far. He's not confirming that evidence of what happened to his father will be found in the house, but he's leaving some room open that it could be. As if he's just shoved his arm into the fireplace and cut it on the broken glass, which is totally the sort of thing he would do, apparently.
So when he does this, it just like drips
Nice.
down. I asked him to stop, but he doesn't do it when he's stressed out.
Yeah.
He just kind of like, it's his tick.
Yeah, probably itches. Does he, like, does it enough to get on the floor? Does it leave?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like how much, like, before we were talking the water bottle lid and the Yeti lid, is there, I mean, like, are we talking puddles like that, or just ribbons, or?
It could be enough.
Okay.
But I'm thinking Yeti lid if he's there and I don't catch him soon enough.
Oh, jeez.
My ma's blood, just from her bloody noses she gets sometimes when she wakes up. That's why we've been doing the humidifier and dehumidifiers.
Yeah. Probably downstairs you get the...
We have to do multiple of them, but she can't be in the living room too long because that's a dehumidifier. And
Yep.
if she does, her nose gets bad. Not like a regular one, she gets it bad.
Is there any reason to believe that in either one of their vehicles there would be any of their blood?
Their vehicles?
Emphasis can be a strange giveaway. Sometimes it's not what someone reacts to, but what they don't react to that stands out. In this case, the surprise isn't about evidence in their vehicles. In general, it's specifically about their vehicles. Almost as if finding evidence connected to his parents somewhere else wouldn't be all that shocking. For context, Chandler didn't even have his own car. He was using his father's Subaru when he transported evidence of what he'd done, so it's possible we are reading too much into it. Still, it's worth noticing it can sometimes signal that someone hasn't quite sorted out what they're supposed to seem confused or surprised by.
The past few days, my dad's car trash.
Why would they have blood in their car trashes?
Well, my mom does the bloody noses with the air conditioning, so
Okay.
when we have air conditioning, my mom will have to use bring towels and stuff, because in the hot days you can't have your windows open, you won't drive well.
No.
So air conditioning, my mom will have nosebleeds. My dad hasn't had them as much as she does, but he gets them.
Okay.
We got all the background, I think, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So I think it's time we start talking about what happened to your parents. Like the truthful version.
Okay.
Okay? So we have like 20 pages of writing.
After several more minutes of this, the detectives decide they've gathered as extensive a statement as they possibly can, and finally move in for direct confrontation.
We're going to start with a clean white piece of paper for you to start telling the truth.
Okay. What?
Because listen to me. This is the only chance you're going to have to tell us the truth. Okay.
What?
Listen. I can't tell you what we know, but we know you're not telling us the truth. We know your parents are no longer with us. Okay, and we know the reason why. Okay, you need to tell the truth. Listen. You need to tell the truth about what happened, and just tell us why it happened. Okay? If something happened, if you were defending yourself, or if you just got fed up with stuff, you need to tell us the truth. Okay? This is your chance to tell us why. Okay? I'm not BSing you. Okay? So can we do that?
Okay. They're okay.
With apologies for stating the obvious, Chandler Halderson is in a state of profound panic. This next statement is the first of 4 that will perfectly illustrate that.
What happened? Okay.
You know what happened. We're not going to tell you what happened. You know what happened. You were there when it happened.
My parents are fine. I want to know what happened to them. And I had nothing to do with it. This is the posture of a man who is all out of lies. He desperately wants one more to cling to, but unable to figure out which one, he tries all 3 in a matter of seconds, and then, with the realization that from this point forward, the only response his lies will be met with is, "Cool bro, no shut the heck up." Chandler Halderson proceeds to do exactly that and is promptly put in cuffs. When trying to get away with something so terrible, the first step is to have an immaculate plan thought out in advance. But not only did that not happen in this instance, the state of Wisconsin seemed to make a point of trying the case with a mindset of taking absolutely nothing for granted. They were dotting every I and crossing every T to convey just how absurd Chandler Halderson's pleas of not guilty were. We don't have time to play prosecuting attorney William Brown's opening in its entirety, but it is linked in the description, as it's worth watching the full thing if you're interested in studying what a superb prosecution looks like. One thing Brown does particularly artfully is strike the right emotional balance. With a case as serious as this, there's a risk of being perceived as cold if you stick to the facts so much that it comes across as if the human tragedy at the heart of the case doesn't resonate with you. At the same time, conveying too much emotion might make you seem unprofessional and less trustworthy. Brown doesn't fall into either trap, systematically laying out the mountain of evidence against Chandler Halderson while letting his horror at the crimes and contempt for Halderson seep through with his pacing and tone.
Our job is to, over the course of the next couple of weeks, present evidence to show you the path of what we believed happened, which is that Chandler Halderson killed his parents. That's Bart and Krista Halderson. I'm gonna try to use some photos as I talk to maybe guide us along. Some people are more visual learners, some aren't. That's Bart and Krista Halderson, couple in their early 50s, living in Windsor, Wisconsin, a quiet street, in a quiet house, kind of in a quiet town. Nearly a week after killing his parents, but no one in the world knowing, Chandler Halderson walks into the Northeast Precinct of the Dane County Sheriff's Office and says, "I'd like to file a missing persons report." My parents, they just haven't come back from the cabin. They were there this weekend. We have a cabin up north. It's in White Lake, up in Langlade County. It's pretty far up north, a couple of hours. Who were they with? The deputies ask. I don't know. He gives this bizarre story of his parents leaving in an unknown car, going to a cabin with an unknown couple, with an unknown amount of money, for really an unknown reason. So the police expand their search and they start talking to not only just Chandler, people about Chandler, they start talking to people who were with Chandler that weekend. Specifically, they talked to his girlfriend, a young girl named Catherine. She goes by Kat. And in one of these meetings, she says, "You know what was weird? Is this weekend, when I was with Chandler, while his parents were at the cabin, I left the house early one day, on Saturday, in fact, Saturday, July 3rd. And she says, he told me he was going to do chores that morning around the house. But when I looked at my Snapchat, I saw his location was in a weird spot. At 8:58 in the morning, when he was supposed to be doing chores on Saturday, July 3rd, I thought it was strange that he was in what appears to be a forest on the banks of the Wisconsin River near Prairie du Sac. The drones go up, the dogs go out, the search team starts searching. Very quickly, and I promise this is as far as the photos will go, they find the remains of Krista Halderson. One complete leg, then somewhat farther away in another bush, a foot, a thigh. No more of Krista Halderson that's identifiable to her will ever be found. The police thought, this is just a strange location. Why would Chandler be out there? He'd been out there before. And they started talking to people, including girlfriends of his in the past, friends of his, and they say, yeah, Chandler really liked this location out on the Wisconsin River. He'd go there all the time. It's where he'd go swimming. When his friends came into town, that was the secret swimming spot. And one friend even said, you know what? Last year he sent me a picture while he was out there. Kind of shirtless, hanging from a tree with a machete. I don't know. Didn't have a lot of significance at the time when the police saw it, but eventually someone realized the tree looks unique. Interesting V pattern right there. The hollowness of the tree as it goes down. The way in which 5 of those branches branch off. And eventually one of the detectives realizes why. Something clicked. It was the exact location he ditched his mother's remains. What was this guy doing on his phone? What's he Googling? This is what he's Googling. Body found, Wisconsin. Woman's body found, Wisconsin. Wisconsin dismembered body found. Dead body found in Wisconsin. Body found in Milwaukee River. He's searching for whether they found his parents. And this concussion he apparently suffered. He did go to the hospital. You'll hear from the doctor who was there. He said, yeah, he came in, he reported that he hit his head falling down the stairs. I diagnosed him with a mild concussion. And given what you're going to find out in this case, you may conclude at the end of it, he never suffered any fall at all. When Chandler Halderson needs to think of a new lie to get out of the SpaceX lie, guess who ends up in the hospital? Being doted over by his mother and his family with a supposed neck injury. This is Father's Day of this year. Of course, Chandler wearing a neck brace that no one told him he had to wear on the left. Now, around this time, Chandler started telling people an extraordinarily bizarre set of claims. That he had a brain bleed, a hematoma, that he had spinal damage, that he needed his head drilled open, that the inability to use his legs at all. Couldn't drive. People had to do that for him. That he had nerve damage, that he needed to get a colostomy bag. But most importantly, he couldn't go to Florida. The doctors had told him he couldn't fly. This guy who's wearing a neck brace nearly every day in late June 2021 would have no problem just days later carrying large bags of ice out of gas stations to chill his father's cut up body in a freezer. And you'll note, no neck brace. And in fact, you'll note in this case, Chandler Halderson is never seen in that neck brace again after July 1st, 2021, when he kills his parents. So it's July 1st, and if any of you remember, 4th of July weekend's pretty hot this year. People in the neighborhood thought it was a little bit weird that so much fireplace was going on, they smelled stuff. One person, this neighborhood's full of retired cops, but one retired cop said, I smelled like a barbecue, smelled like a pig roast. And he said that just not knowing what it was at the time, talking to the police. What stuck out to police right away was that little rock right there. They thought, what is that? So they pulled it off and they put it on one of these fancy police deals. And the forensic anthropologist took one look at it. And she said, oh, this is a human skull. He had burned his parents' heads in that fireplace. Chandler Halderson killed his parents on July 1st, 2021. He cut up their bodies with axes, and saws, and knives. And he didn't even give them the dignity of having a funeral or even a final resting place in one piece or together. Their remains were scattered across Dane County, in public land, on farms, in garbage cans, in rivers, and perhaps every ditch is a possibility in this county. You'll find the evidence in this case is overwhelming.
So once it's confirmed that the prosecution is not asleep at the wheel, step 3 in trying to avoid responsibility for these events is having one hell of a defense team. Though, just as the level of bungling that would be required to not secure a conviction in this case is basically inconceivable, so too are the sorts of smoke and mirrors that would be needed to win an acquittal. If such a feat were even vaguely possible, Chandler Halderson would need attorneys that made Johnny Cochran look like Lionel Hutz. But those sorts of lawyers are very expensive, and as Halderson's inheritance and life insurance payouts were sort of in escrow for self-explanatory reasons, he had to just go with the run-of-the-mill public defenders instead. We will be poking some fun at his defense, because it's impossible to resist. But in the interest of fairness, it should be acknowledged that most of the laughability here is owed to the case that his lawyers have to work with, rather than their own shortcomings as attorneys. In her opening defense, attorney Catherine Dahl shows signs of nervousness, such as failing to pronounce the L in Chandler, calling him Chandler Halderson, and stumbling over her syntax.
He's 23 years old, young man. He likes to play video games, play with his dogs, hang out with his girlfriend, and he lived peacefully in his parents' home. He was just a normal kid. He is a normal kid. So what did happen? What happened to the Haldersons? What happened in that Haldersons' home? Remember those questions at the end of this trial, when you have to decide whether the state has proven to you that Chandler Halderson killed his parents, because they simply don't know what happened. They just told you what they think happened. We heard a lot of detail of the before and a lot of detail of the after, but one or two simple sentences, and then he killed his parents.
Of course, the before and the after can sometimes speak very convincingly to such a proposition, especially if the after includes Chandler Halderson being seen in areas where evidence related to his parents was discovered. Halderson's defense is... hold on a second, she's going to screw up another word.
You're going to notice that many of the facts, many of the witnesses, aren't going to be hotly contested by the defense in this case. And that goes back to what I was just saying.
Of a juror. Anyway, Halderson's defense is making a play quite common in unwinnable cases. They're not just leaning heavily into the standard of reasonable doubt, but insinuating that reasonable doubt actually implies an even higher standard of being empirically proven, to the extent that no alternative explanation is even theoretically possible. Basically, if the act wasn't caught on film and the state hasn't provided you with the opportunity to travel back in time and witness it yourself, then they have fallen short of their burden. They're not allowed to outright say such a thing, of course. But that's the sort of perception that Catherine Dahl is trying to create when she asks insipid theoretical questions like, so what did happen?
12, 18, 100 reasonable people can look at a certain situation and form a different conclusion. And when you're talking about a system where you need to be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt, you better make very sure that you're excluding all of the other things that these facts could mean. What that means is you must resist guessing. You must resist speculation. You must resist storytelling.
It's a funny request because to look at the evidence and circumstances in this case and create an explanation for all of it other than Chandler Halderson was responsible for what happened to his parents would require absolutely wild speculation and storytelling. But one advantage the defense has is that they don't actually have to put forward an alternative explanation. They just have to undermine the state as best they can. This links in with Catherine Dahl alluding to how the jury might not actually see the defense contest much in this case. Over the course of the trial, not only did they not put on a single witness, they barely cross-examined any of the state's witnesses.
Cross-examination?
No, thank you.
No further questions.
Cross?
No, thank you.
Any cross-examination?
No, thank you.
Cross-examination?
No, thank you.
Cross-examination?
No, thank you.
No further questions for now.
Cross-examination at this time?
Nothing now, thank you.
Cross-examination?
None, thank you.
Cross-examination?
No, thank you.
Cross-examination?
No, thank you.
May this witness be excused and released. Cross-examination?
One moment. No questions, thank you.
Cross-examination?
No, thank you.
May this witness be released and excused.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time.
On the occasions they did opt to cross-examine, they did not do so extensively. In other words, they made no attempt at crafting their own specific, paradigm-shifting way to view all the evidence. This is because sometimes it is better to present an alternative story than a terrible alternative story, as the latter is liable to highlight just how inconvincible any explanation other than the state's is. Your best play then is to just highlight wherever there might be the smallest deficiency in evidence, where you can quit while you're ahead, and pray one juror might make a mountain out of a molehill with it.
On July 8th, do you happen to have, you end up having a conversation with Chandler Halderson, is that true?
That is true.
And you said you had a discussion with him about the other couple. Did you mean the couple that supposedly had picked up Bart and Krista?
Right. I said, well, have you heard from them? Are they missing too? And he said no, or not that he knows of, or something along those lines.
Did that make any sense to you?
No. I'd never seen Bart or Krista get in the car with anybody else.
And you say you never saw Krista or Bart get into a car with other people. It's fair to say you're not watching them all the time, correct?
No, absolutely not.
Thank you.
The prosecution used their time during the trial to put on dozens of witnesses, painstakingly establishing every assertion made in their opening as fact. Their closing was delivered by prosecuting attorney Andrea Raymond, and while we wouldn't rate it as being quite as pitch-perfect as William Brown's opening, that's no slight on Ms. Raymond, as it's a very high bar. She still did a stellar job laying everything out and even managing to get a few jabs in as a bonus.
People don't like when I say those words, beyond a reasonable doubt, because it almost feels like a cop-out. And if you think that it's a cop-out, well, then your issue is not with me. Your issue is not with Chandler. Your issue is with the U.S. Constitution that says that without them, you don't have me. And without me, you don't have them. The first thing I want to address is sort of the obvious. Chandler lies.
The defense's closing was delivered by Crystal Vera, who for her part swung for the fences a little more than Catherine Dahl did.
He told a lot of lies. Chandler is not charged with lying to his girlfriend or to his parents. There's one charge that has to deal, one per parent, that has to deal with lying. I'm gonna make your life a little easier, and it's gonna be a little unconventional. There are certain charges that I believe the state has met their burden and they have proved it beyond a reasonable doubt. A piece of paper that is signed, a formal piece of paper that's signed by Chandler to the Dane County Sheriff's Office about a missing persons that clearly is not true. This is proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
It does indeed seem unconventional to stand in front of a jury and tell them that you believe the state has proven charges of providing false information on a missing persons investigation, even though your client is pleading not guilty to those charges and you haven't made a formal agreement to change the plea. It is actually allowed though. And while Vera is emphasizing how ironclad the state's case is on those charges as a means of making the case for the more serious charges seem weak by comparison, maybe comically desperate, before laughing at her, you should ask yourself, what better play would you make if you had what she has to work with?
So now I'm going to walk you through the evidence that I think that they skipped over that matters for me in proving that first-degree intentional homicide was not something that they met their burden on. I first want to talk about the cabin. There is a cabin, there's no disputing that. Bart and Krista went to the cabin at least 2 or 3 times a year, I think is what someone testified to. It's possible that they could have gone to the cabin that weekend. In fact, you don't even know what their weekend plans were. Friends testified. None of them said, oh, they were going to come over to watch fireworks with us.
This much is not really enough to make Bart and Krista traveling to their holiday cabin that weekend even remotely possible in light of what you've already heard and what Ms. Vera is about to concede.
Those maps that we saw yesterday tracking Chandler's every single move, matching up with where the bodies were found and at the time that they were found, that's proof beyond a reasonable doubt. A bloody tarp and some tools, that's proof beyond a reasonable doubt. But that doesn't mean that a homicide occurred. Something awful happened to these 2 people. And the very least you can say is that Chandler reacted. But you do not know what happened. Do you know how Bart was killed? Exactly how he was killed. Do you know how Krista was killed? Do you know if it was an awful accident? Do you know if it was intentional? Do you know if there was someone else involved? You don't. And that's a problem. You have to go back and look at everything and make sure that everything that you're discussing in that room actually came from evidence that you heard from that stand and not from the Google searches that you may or may not have done. I'm hoping you didn't, but I'm going to be realistic.
Openly expressing doubt about the jury's integrity to their faces is a risky move, but if she's right and causes one of them to feel bad about it, perhaps it will cause them to overcompensate with the amount of leeway they extend to their client. It's a bit of a reach, but if you feel like you can come up with a better rationale for this strategy, by all means, let us know in the comments.
That at any minute, someone's going to walk into that door. Someone from the Dane County Deputies Department is going to walk in and say, I found it. I found the video we were looking for. I know exactly what happened in that house on the 1st. It doesn't exist. But what if it did? Are you going to be paying attention to, I'm going to assume it's Mr. Brown, but are you going to be paying attention to what Mr. Brown has to say during his rebuttal? Or are you going to be looking at that door hoping that someone walks in? And if you're going to look at that door hoping that someone comes in, you have reasons to doubt.
And just as Ms. Vera predicted, such a magical video did indeed fail to materialize. And despite an impressive 2 whole hours of deliberation, the jury were not able to find a way to avoid finding Chandler Halderson guilty on multiple serious charges. These included 2 counts related to the outcome for his parents, additional counts for his action afterward, and for providing false information in a missing persons investigation. On March 18th, he was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. And when given the opportunity to address the court, he remained true to himself, using the moment to spout absolute nonsense one last time. At the sentencing, the woman who was going to marry Chandler's brother stood up. She talked about the empty seats at family dinners, about the grandchildren Bart and Krista would never hold. The pain was still raw. It would be there forever. Chandler's own grandmother wrote a letter for the court. She said she still loved him, even after what he did, but she hoped he could learn a trade in prison. She wanted him to have some hope. The judge listened, but he said no to parole. When it was his turn to speak, Chandler read from a paper. He said he had feelings about what happened, but he was told not to show them because of all the cameras. He asked for lawyers to help with his appeal. He still thought he could get out.
Take a moment to please reach out to me. It's not that I do not have feelings. It's that I was warned to not show them due to the scrutiny of this case.
Cool story, bro. Now shut the heck up. In Chandler's mind, he was the hero, an astronaut, a rescuer, a genius. But the reality he tried so hard to burn away in that fireplace still survived. He wanted to be remembered as a SpaceX engineer reaching for the stars. Instead, he'll be remembered as a coward who turned his own parents into ash because he was terrified of growing up. This is Vain True Crime. We don't just tell stories, we expose human nature. If you value that kind of depth, subscribe now. The next investigation will make you double check your door locks. Remember, what's hidden always comes out, especially when it's written in your browser history. See you next time.